This video is brought to you by AllisonWinePromo.com, where there is no shortage of excellent, robust Malbecs from high-altitude regions of Argentina. Two of these wines come from almost 9,000 feet, which means the grape skins work a lot harder under the sun, producing more antioxidants and a unique flavor. You get 50% off the wine itself and 50% off shipping. And you can toast a free speech while supporting my work. So go to AllisonWinePromo.com right now for that deal. Or if you prefer USDA-certified high-altitude organic coffee, go to TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison, TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison. You can check out a wide variety of roasts. There's a limited black edition right now, which is processed with honey. So a smoother, a little bit of a sweeter finish than some coffees, not that bitter aftertaste, but also you can try the Caturra tea. If you're a tea drinker, it's the tea that we make from coffee fruit. So the fruit that's around the bean. It's very good. It tastes a lot like black tea. I like to cold brew mine for about 24 hours, but you can hot brew it as well. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, whatever you're drinking, check out my sponsors and let's continue on with the video. Glad to have Sally Fallon Morell back to talk about this infant formula shortage. We've got a lot to discuss today. And if I was somebody who was just entering this world and I had never been talked to about making my own or even what's in sort of your average infant formula, this would be a very scary time. And I hope that this video will help those who are new to this topic calm down a little bit, that there are options besides just waiting for the White House to fix things for you. This is what their fact sheet said that they released on the 12th, that President Biden is directing his administration to work urgently to ensure that during the Abbott Nutrition voluntary recall, infant formula is safe and available for families across the country. And goes back to say that on February 17th, the largest infant formula manufacturer in the country, Abbott Nutrition, initiated a voluntary recall of several lines of powdered formula. This came after concerns about bacterial contamination at Abbott's Sturgis, Michigan facility after 4 infants fell ill and 2 died. The federal government, including all these agencies, has worked diligently over the last few months to address the shortfall in infant formula production while the Sturgis plant remains offline. So I guess my first question for you is, unless there's something you want to add to what you think.
I want to say, you talk about panic and concern.
Yeah.
There is no worse panic than a mom who can't find what she needs to feed your child. And so there's a reason for the panic. And I've been there myself, and I have tremendous sympathy for these moms. This factory apparently was extremely dirty, and powdered formula is never sterile anyway. This idea, the liquid formula, I guess they can sterilize, but powdered formula is never sterile. So it has to be produced in just pristine conditions.
I think it's interesting. One of the things I'm sure we're going to talk about is raw milk, making your own formula. There are a lot of warnings out there to not go outside the sort of conventional commercial infant formula. But it's always crazy to me because they just say in this report that kids died, and I feel like if kids died on a raw drinking raw milk or what, I mean, they would like take your whole farm. I mean, it wouldn't just be like, we're just going to wait for the plant to come back online.
Yeah. So, our formula page at the Weston A. Price Foundation has seen a 1,000% increase in traffic in the last few weeks. Now you're showing it there. And we advocate a homemade formula based on raw milk. This formula was formulated by my co-author, Mary Enig, PhD, and we did our very best to make it as close to human milk as possible. It is a little bit complicated to put together. Once you get used to it, it's not that hard. And we reckon that about 20,000 babies have had this formula, and we have had uniformly good results with it. Wonderful testimonials and tremendous gratitude from the moms. Now, so the first thing is, of course, raw milk, and that raises eyebrows. Well, mother's milk is raw milk. Human milk is raw milk. And human milk has been tested, and it tends to be full of pathogens. especially in countries that aren't that clean. But the beauty of raw milk is that it creates an immune system that provides protection from any pathogens the child is exposed to for life. So now, we don't like to use milk that's full of pathogens. We ask that you choose your raw milk farmer carefully. But we've had absolutely no problems in this regard with this formula. Now, one of our biggest concerns with commercial formula is that it does not contain cholesterol. Mother's milk is very rich in cholesterol. All animal milk is rich in cholesterol. And there are special enzymes. If the milk is raw, there are special enzymes that ensure that cholesterol is 100% absorbed. The baby cannot make its own cholesterol at that young age. It requires cholesterol for the development of the brain, the nervous system, the gut lining, and for hormone production. Babies make a lot of important hormones when they're babies. And cholesterol is essential for all of this. Now, commercial formula is supposed to be scientific, but it is not scientific. It's made with skim milk and vegetable oils. So there's no animal fat, there's no cholesterol in this formula. But there's plenty of cholesterol in any raw animal milk and very available for the infant. It's really, really critical for babies to get raw milk. I cannot stress this enough. And if you can't breastfeed for whatever reason, we really encourage breastfeeding, but it doesn't always work. And some moms just don't want to do it. We're not condemning these moms. Some moms can't do it because of illness. You get adopted babies. And it just makes sense that if you cannot give your own raw breast milk, that the next best thing is raw milk from another species. I recently saw a beautiful baby who had been adopted. The mother was a drug addict, and they had put the baby on commercial formula, and the baby wasn't growing, wasn't making any progress. And they switched to our raw milk formula, and the baby just thrived, just came alive. So we have numerous testimonials like this.
Yeah, I think back to a friend of mine had a child the same time I did, and my daughter was doing raw milk. This is probably, I don't know, they're almost a year old at this point. And her child was doing just commercial formula, promoted by the pediatrician.
Oh,
like
yeah.
They sell them right there in the office. Like when you take your dog to the veterinarian, they have Science Diet there, it's like the same thing. But she was like almost annoyed because my daughter has she's probably going to hate me for telling this when she's 16, but she's having like 3 or 4 bowel movements a day. She's no skin problems. She's got a great immune system. And I honestly, I wonder about these pediatricians because like my friend's daughter, like she's constipated. She doesn't have a bowel movement for 5 straight days. She's got eczema.
The formula is very constipating. Yeah.
And I think I'm like, what? But the doctors say just feed her some prunes on top of they don't think to themselves, it could be this stuff that we're selling. I wanted to ask you real fast before we go any further on this, because you were talking about moms that can't, and somebody at my locals community, just a shout out, AllisonMauer.locals.com. If you're watching this somewhere else, go join my editorial board, post questions ahead of time. What of the many toxic things in our society do you feel contributed most to women not being able to produce their own milk?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, I had this problem myself, and I considered myself very healthy, and I just did not have enough milk to nourish my babies. I was able to breastfeed my first baby by breastfeeding basically all the time, but it pretty much was impossible with my other 3. So I have tremendous sympathy for moms. And usually you're told that it's because you're too tense, but of course you're tense, but it's not that. There are valid medical reasons for not having enough milk. One is low thyroid production. And we have half the population has a thyroid problem in this country. So that's one explanation. There could be many other explanations, toxins in the diet, low Oxycontin production.
Oxytocin.
Excuse me.
I don't want people to think they're going to go get Oxycontin.
What I wanted to say about the cholesterol, if I could just finish this, because it just shows how ignorant and based on money this whole formula thing is. If you buy milk replacement for animals, for your calves or your goats, the third ingredient in that formula is animal fat, because the scientists know, the vets know, that these animals will not thrive without the fats, the animal fats. And yet we are not putting animal fats in human formula. The animals get it because there's no money in sick animals, but there's a lot of money in sick children. And this is a huge scandal, in my opinion, that needs to be addressed immediately. It should be a crime not to use whole milk in these formulas. Now, it's still pasteurized and powdered, and that totally denatures the milk, but at least they would be getting the fats if they used whole milk.
Somebody also was asking about these commercial formulas and Caro syrup for these. So these are home recipes they're asking about, but you were bringing up like the vegetable oils and whatnot in the commercial ones. What do you know about, like, here's the question. The home recipes for baby formula floating around the web seem to be basically evaporated milk and Caro syrup. The person says that's atrocious. Caro is just high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, and they're right. And commercial formula is not much different. It's skim milk because they don't want to waste the valuable butterfat on babies. It's some kind of fructose or sucrose and not lactose, which is the sugar in milk. And it's very important for their nervous systems. And then it's vegetable oils, which in themselves are toxic and do not support growth and hormone production. You could not think of a worse combination to give to a baby, and yet this is touted as being scientific. It is not scientific. It is just commercial. They're using the cheapest possible ingredients. Now, we're supposed to be, this wonderful, wealthy country, and we cannot figure out how to successfully feed our babies. It is a scandal. We need to be, first of all, there needs to be an outcry from the population for more access to raw milk. And we need to have this huge effort, national effort, to show farmers how they can produce raw milk in a safe, clean manner, because it's perfectly possible to do.
On that note, this person asks, I have come across a few articles denouncing homemade formula and using raw cow milk and goat milk. In addition, many places are promoting breast milk banks. However, the breast milk is pasteurized. That's right. What our hospital told us to get. And they did give us that at the beginning until I was, for the first day or two. But I always wondered about that because they pasteurize it, which is what this person says. Since you provide recipes for homemade formula on the website and in Nourishing Traditions, how would you respond to those who are unsure about using raw milk for formula? And in your opinion, which is the better option, raw cow's milk formula or pasteurized breast milk from a bank?
Well, it should be raw. And the interesting thing about the breast milk banks, they actually did a study on breast milk, and they found that there were far more infections in the babies if they were given pasteurized breast milk. And yet they go ahead and pasteurize it anyway. They go against all the science because of this prejudice against raw milk. As far as cows versus goat milk, we always ask people to start out on cow's milk. First of all, it's much more available. Some babies do better on goat milk, but the goat milk tends to be constipating. So we always say try the cow's milk first. Now, our formula adds a lot of things. We add lactose because there's more lactose in mother's milk. We add more whey to the milk because there's more whey proteins in mother's milk. So we do add things that to bring it up to the levels in mother's milk. And the cow's milk is diluted also a little bit because it tends to be a little bit denser in nutrients than mother's milk.
Have you gotten extra pushback from the government over telling people to use raw milk for baby formula? People seem to get freaked out over drinking raw milk as adults. In North Carolina, you can only find it from certain farmers and for animal consumption only.
First of all, you can go to realmilk.com and find raw milk farmers near you, and go to your local chapter of the Weston A. Price Foundation, because they have visited all these farms and they can tell you whether they were clean or not. But whether it's for animals only, if the farm is clean, it's fine. It's fine. There's no law against consuming pet food.
This is funny. You probably won't have the answer to this one. Are there alternative formulas available that can be locally sourced when supply chain issues occur with $10 gallon diesel disrupts flow?
Yeah, I mean, everything is more expensive today, and my heart goes out to parents who, have budget constraints, but there is nothing more important to spend your money on than giving your baby the right start at the beginning. And by the way, we have done a price comparison between formula and our homemade raw milk formula, and they were about the same cost. Our formula was not more expensive than commercial formula.
Back on your website, westonaprice.org, and it's pretty, if you just, whatever search engine you're using, if you type in Weston A. Price homemade baby formula, it'll come up.
There. Yes.
You guys
have a 1,000% increase in traffic on that page.
Yeah,
we have a little video that shows you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We have the recipe there. We have frequently asked questions. If you're having trouble, call the local chapter of your Weston A. Price Foundation. They can put you in touch with moms who've used this formula. We're there to help, and to help your baby have the best start in life.
And I guess if a mom is, say, not ready to take the leap into raw milk, you can make your formula with whole milk, or like, say you find, like, we have a farm that does vat pasteurization. Yeah. I don't know what you think about that.
I cannot recommend that.
Okay.
Actually, the pasteurized milk is more allergenic than the powdered milk they use in formula. We do have a liver-based formula that has saved a lot of babies who just couldn't do the raw milk or couldn't do any kind of dairy. So that's what I would recommend if you can't find raw milk. But believe me, raw milk is widely available now in the country.
Sally, is there, there was one other question I had for you. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we go on this topic, or, I mean, anything else, I guess, when it comes to what we're facing with when you have these centralized food systems, and you see, this is a great example of, like, one plant goes down and a national problem. Yes,
of course, we advocate that for all your foods, you get it as much as possible from local sources. So we build a local food shed, so we are not dependent on a small number of centralized manufacturers for our food. But as far as your baby is concerned, please try the breastfeeding first. And so many moms go right to the formula. In Sweden, they have been able to accomplish 95% of mothers breastfeeding, at least for the first month. And they did this by banning commercial formula from the hospitals. And that's what we need to do, number one. We need to get the moms breastfeeding again. And then for those who can't, for whatever reasons, if the baby's not thriving, if they don't have enough milk, and believe me, this is a fairly common problem, then we need to support these moms with the formula that we advocate, the homemade formula.
One quick question I did think of. There was a post from somebody else on my Logos platform about how she chose not to breastfeed, and a lot of women have, and she's sick of hearing people say you should breastfeed because breast milk has flame retardant and all these toxins in it. And of course, it depends on what the mom is exposed to, right? So if the mom has a healthier diet, is living in an area where there's less toxic, filtered water, or you're out of a, spring water well or whatever. So all that matters. But she's like, it said something like, there's no mystery to me why autism rates are going up as the breast milk push is happening, I was like, wow, that's the first time I've ever heard anybody, connect those two.
No,
I've heard a lot of theories about autism.
yeah,
What do you say to moms like that? Who
well,
say, no,
we need to clean up our world. And we really need to emphasize in preparation for pregnancy, during breastfeeding, that you have a clean diet as best you can. But the other thing I would like to say is that in raw milk, including raw breast milk, are components that provide a very strong immune system, build the healthy gut wall, and prevent those kind of toxins from being absorbed. So, and don't think that the formula has any fewer toxins in it. The milk they use in the formula has got all these toxins as well. So that's not to me, that's not a valid reason for not breastfeeding. Now, a lot of moms, give these reasons. They just don't want to do it. And I understand that also. I know that a lot of moms find it embarrassing or yucky. And okay, we shouldn't condemn these moms. We should just make sure that the baby gets a healthy food as a baby. And that's why we encourage moms who can't breastfeed or just aren't going to breastfeed to use our raw milk formula.
Anything else you'd like to add, Sally? Are you concerned we're going to have a food apocalypse in the near future?
I don't think so. I think food's going to get very expensive. I think it will have a silver lining in getting people to support local farmers. So we have a more broad-based food supply. I certainly hope this formula fiasco is going to increase the demand for raw milk and demand that public officials embrace raw milk and help us create a raw milk availability all over the country, more available than we have now.
Okay. Sally Fallon Morell, thank you so much for coming back on to talk about this.
Thanks for having me.
If you watch this video on Rumble, don't forget to join my locals community. It's super easy. Check out that red join button at the top of the screen and then click on support. And that'll give you access and the ability to chat during my weekly exclusive editorial board meetings. I have them out in the barn with my horses. You can give me feedback from the week before, story ideas for the week ahead. You can tell me how your life's going and what you wish I was doing or not doing. It's a great way to connect. And like I said, it's exclusive to locals. You can also put in questions ahead of time for interviews. So join my locals community. It really is one of the main ways that I'm able to continue doing this work. So thank you to everybody who's already on locals, and I will see you over there.